Hello, it's Bart from NatureManufacture. This time I would like to show our fence generator, which is part of River Auto Material asset. By this tool, you're able to spawn uh, fence objects, so 3D meshes along the spline, but not only 3D meshes. For example, you could spawn also decals. So basically, you could spawn prefabs along the spline. And if you use 3D meshes, you are also able to bend this mesh. So you lose generic look just by clicking one single button. Okay, but maybe step by step. Let's explain all these settings. So, and I will show you possibilities that you have with our fence generator. Okay, so to place our fence generator, we click 3D object, we choose NatureManufacture, create fence generator, and by holding Control, we place point. What next? We could choose a profile that we prepared for you, or you could just set up own fence from the beginning. Let's maybe choose a stone wall for a test, and we click generate. If we will click auto generate, when we change the position, it will regenerate our mesh. If we uncheck this, it will regenerate it only when we click generate fence again. So what we have here, we go to the spline settings, and first of all, we have a spline density, so it's a curvature of the spline between points. I think the orthographic view will be more suitable for uh, fences like concrete fences with poles and spans, and the shapes that you really don't want to bend, and you want to force straight lines between points. But for other cases, I would say for most cases, you would rather use a smaller or higher value for spline density. The other thing is that you could loop the fence, so the last and the first point will be connected. We have also collision snap. You choose layer or layers for collision detections. It's cool because if you will place a point very high, let's maybe increase the spline density very high, uh, but you want to, for example, follow the terrain curvature. You don't have to place multiple points between points just to adjust it to terrain. You just click snap, and this object automatically gets snapped to the terrain, and it gets proper. More the higher spline density will put, the more accurate will be the snapping. Of course, if you bend the mesh, because if you want, then simply without bending, it will place objects, and of course it will rotate to adjust it to the terrain curvature, but it, as mesh will not bend it, it will not follow directly the shape under the of the terrain. You see? So yeah, so that's about the collision and the raycast. Let's maybe show you other spline setting. So creating the parallel spline to the other spline object. Okay, so other spline setting is useful if you want to generate a parallel object, for example, pipe, or you want to force a fence generator to follow other spline object like lake or road. So how to set up this? Let's maybe copy this fence generator. Let's maybe change it to pipe. And if we will in splice setting, maybe modify it just to see that the difference. Let's maybe drag and drop other spline into window, and we could click get points, and it get points from the other spline. No matter if this is river, lake, or other fence generator. Let's maybe turn off the snapping because it looks a bit odd. Turn off collision snap. Okay. So yeah, we could read points from the other splines as well. Super cool if you want to, for example, generate wall border on the rock, or just like I said before, mm, parallel parallel. If we change this, you could see that we could refresh that as well. We get points and we refresh that as well. So this is how the other spline works. Uh, you could really use it in many different ways. Let's now go to the prefab settings and play with it step by step. So we will set up span, beginning, ending span, and post objects. Okay, so to show you the span beginning, end, and all the span options, I would start from most complicated options. So we choose 3D object, we create fence generator, we place few points for our spline, we open spline settings. Of course, in distribution, in this, I will create cliff for you. So I will choose bend meshes, and I will choose also auto generate to see how it changes after I place or move point. So for let's maybe start from span objects. Let's add one. It will be cliff, and we see that we have a cliff out of the box, but it's still not rendered properly. You probably will be able to see first of all that it doesn't start from it doesn't end at the end, and it doesn't start at the beginning. If I will place more spans, we'll probably notice some gaps that will start to show up, and I will just tell you why this happened. Okay, we see the gap. Why all this happened? Because if we place, if you will, let's place this object on the scene, and we see that the direction of the prefab is minus x, and up we have a y. So we have to set up the same axis in our spans. So let's set this to minus. This also should be minus, and this should be minus as well. And now it works properly. It starts from the 0 point and it ends at the point _4. And this is very important setting because you have different meshes with different axes. For example, if we look at this stone, we have a minus z, and if we change this to axis that doesn't match the prefab axis, we will get a mess. So always remember that when you set up prefab, you have to set up proper axis. Of course, this is a very um, bad example because none of the prefabs should have a minus z on the forward axis, but we did this with idea to show you that you have to set up this value if you have a mesh that doesn't fit normal axis directions. So what we have more, let's maybe change this flip to B, and we have a probability which basically give information how often this kind of specific prefab should be spawned. So you could change it. So for example, one of these prefabs will be more often. The other thing is that we have a beginning and ending objects as well. So let's find the prefab. It's 0, 2. So for 0, 2, we prepared cliff ending left and right. Let's maybe place at the beginning span left, and let's choose the minus x, and we see that it still doesn't spawn properly. In such a case, we should choose option for mirror or end offset. If we choose end offset, it will, because the thing is that let's maybe turn off this optional at all. The thing is that we place the ending or beginning object at the first point. And in such a case, we have this situation. So this object haven't been placed here, but on the other side of the spline. That's why you have an option for mirror and offset, and it will move this object by its length into the spline, right? So this will fix such a situation. Of course, this setting will, if you the thing that if you will use this setting or not depends on the situation, how your model axes are set, right? If this pivot will be here, you will probably don't have to use offset. And the same situation we have at the end. We could choose, let's place ending and choose proper this. And we see that in this case, it don't need any adjustment because the ending pivot is right here. So it places the ending object just before end. If you will change that, so let's maybe change the option to end offset, you will get a gap. So all these mirror options are designed for you to adjust the path generator to your mesh directions, pivot, right? And so you could see that we have a nice clip now. And the time of the rebake, the mesh rebake, depends from the amount of triangles at the mesh, because you could see that this prefab have LODs, and each prefab have 20,000 triangles. So if you have a longer spline, you will see that you generate huge amount of triangles every time that you move a point, right? So sometimes auto-generate is not best option, or maybe it's good to use lower quality meshes just for so lower lots just for the preview, and at the end put higher quality mesh. It's super long fence. It depends on you. Okay, so besides that, you could move spline points and change the shape of the um, fence. You could also rotate it, right? Or you could scale it, hmm, so you get nice effect, nice mix basically. But remember that it will simply stretch the mesh if you will scale it too much. The other thing is that if the neighbor points will be at, well, they have a totally different position, rotation, you will probably get effect when the cliff or fence object will become stretched. There are two options to handle that. First of all, you could reduce the spline density. But to be honest, you will get hard edges. It will fix the problem, but the edges will be sharp. You could leave the spline density, and there is an option which is called hold up. Basically, this option is used to always have a span in a horizontal direction. But when you bend the mesh, it may help with this situation. So if we force horizontal direction on our mesh, you could see that this stretched area disappear. So this option really may help you to reduce or fix the problem, even if it's not designed to this specific case. So if you create such a cliff, remember about hold up option. Okay, so after we talk about the span object and what we could do with these spans, for example, cliffs, now let's go and talk about the post and span objects together, where we could use that, how we could manage it, and what we could achieve. Okay, so let's play with span and post. First of all, let's maybe create other spline, other fence generator. Let's maybe take this one, and we choose maybe pipe. Adjust it, auto generate. Okay, so what we have here? We have a object that has tube and a circle as a span and post, right? So we have a tube and a post as a circle. And what we have here? When the mesh follow the spline, you could see that the post object is independent from the span. It's aligned to the line direction. The post is aligned to the spline direction in every place. If we have a span and post together, you could see that in every place they fit. Let's look on this span and post. You may see that you have a tube and circle in one object, and even they are separated inside the prefab. So basically, we use this as span, and they always fit together and follow together spline direction. But if we have a separated post and span, we have a situation when post have own direction and span have own direction. I think this will help you to understand when and how to use this spawn and post objects. Maybe let me check one more thing. If we set hold up, you may see that all post objects are always up, while the span objects try to hold the up direction, but of course, as they are bent, they can't. If we turn off the bend, we may see that we have a without without bending, we have a span and a post in vertical horizontal direction. So let's maybe turn on the bending for a moment. So that's the difference between the span and post, and with bend and hold up and without. But maybe let's choose other profile. It will be fence that we use in our host environment. And what we could find here. First of all, let's you have multiple post objects that are spawned with probability. So not every post object is the same. Let's maybe reduce the number of post objects, just so it will be easier to show some other settings. So first of all, you always have a position offset for span and post objects. So you could change the position of each component, right? That's cool. The same you have it with scale. You could, for example, increase the scale of the post or span object. And also you could change the global offset of the composition. So, for example, if you have such a situation, maybe remove our points and you place points. If pivot of the object, spawn object in the middle of the spline with this global offset, we could simply adjust that. Let's back for a moment to the our stone wall, because there is an option in post and span objects that called bound types. The main thing is that system read the mesh data from mesh filter or mesh renderer and generate bounds of the object automatically. And after one object boundary ends, it plays another object. Of course, you could modify this in distribution, but the basic idea is that it plays object after object. You could modify this because you could use, for example, custom function, and you could, I would say, fake the boundary size. What does it mean? Let's maybe reduce the boundary, increase the boundary size, and you could see that the system thinks that this wall ends up here after 4 meters, but in real it ends much earlier because it doesn't read the mesh filter or mesh renderer, right? But it uses values that you set manually. If you will reduce these values, you will notice that they will start to intersect each other. So yeah, this is how this could be used. You don't always have to use boundary type for mesh renderer or mesh filter, because maybe you simply need to set up it in different way. Maybe you want to place a post as a span, so just a vertical object without connection, and this is good way to just set up distance between these objects. Maybe let me show you the idea which I just talk about. For example, this situation. Or if we will use pole, okay, this situation, right? And you could reduce distance between objects. Same setup, you have a in span scale and offset. Or maybe not the same, because this is a global value, which is for all span object, and this is a local value that you could simply set for one specific object, right? To be honest, if you place a span object, it could be, for example, use wall. Why not? So you have many different configuration in this area. Okay, so that's all about span and post objects. Let's maybe reset this profile to default, which we prepared. And now let's play with distribution settings. There is a length calculation type, and the biggest difference will be visible when you do not bend meshes. Let's maybe turn off that option. And what we have here, you may notice that some of the objects go outside the spline, intersect, and doesn't follow the spline very well. If you will change to mesh, you will see that the objects start and end directly at the spline. If we go back to the spline, you may notice that objects start at the spline but doesn't end on it. So let's choose mesh. And where this is mostly visible and where is mostly important, let's maybe copy this object and choose the wooden fence. And if we will use spline, you will see that the span object doesn't end at the post object. So it goes outside. The fence looks messed. But if we will use mesh, the span object will start and end at the post. So this option is super important for fences with post. In a situation where you could not bend the fence and the span must end and start at the post. Because, like I said, if you bend the mesh, difference is not so huge. Okay, but how about this problem? But if you have a spline and the meshes, even bent or not, no matter, it plays the mesh, and for this setup, for this current setup, there is no matter that the object go outside the last point. So that's why you could use scale spans to spline length. This will force and rescale all objects between points, so they will always end with the spline point. You could use uniform or non-uniform scale. If you would use non-uniform scale, you may notice that it sometimes could have a problem with distribution. If you will use uniform scale, all this difference at the end will be distributed into whole spline, and every mesh will have same scale, right? It won't allow to generate strange shorter or longer meshes just because of the distance between points. Okay. Like I said, there's also option that called hold up, and if you don't bend mesh, you will see that the object nicely generate kind of stairs, right? The span is always horizontal. Okay, but if you choose bend meshes, it doesn't matter so much, but like we show you at this clip, it may help with specific angles. Okay, so the last feature which we developed because of this cost and dunes environment pack, where we placed almost most models like cliffs by splines, we developed a new cool feature which called take normal from terrain. Let's maybe take a look on it. Let's turn off this on this cliff. And you may notice that the cliff normal is totally different from the terrain. So even if the cliff have the same texture as the terrain, because it have the same tilling, there is a visible difference between these two shapes. You can handle this two ways. First of all, let me go somewhere else. Like we did here, you could place decal, right? Decal will handle that. But probably you don't want to place so many decals on the scene. That would be, first of all, heavy for the scene and painful for the level designer. So we developed option take normal from terrain. And first of all, it has slider just to ignore when the angle difference between terrain and cliff shape is too big. So this will handle situation like this, where the cliff go down, terrain go down while the cliff is more horizontal. And the second thing is the terrain normal curve. We have two axes here. First is a distance between cliff and terrain. So at 0, 0, when the cliff is touching the terrain, we have a normal blend, a vertex normal blend 0.6, so it's about 60%. When the distance is bigger, then we reduce the blend to 0. Why this is important? Because if we have such a situation like this, if we will, first of all, let's break the system. Uh, let's place this value to 1. So we have at 0 distance, we have a normals just from terrain on our cliff. Okay, let's do this. What happened? First of all, blend is 1-to-1 in this kind of places, right? But let's look, for example, here. We don't have a big distance between these two shapes, terrain and cliff, but we don't have a very hard angle between them, but the angle is hard enough, and I would say the difference of the direction between these two surfaces is too big or big enough that if we place the flat normal on this cliff with this direction, we just get normal errors because this normals doesn't fit the real direction of the mesh. So we get a strange result. But you could just take almost half of the normals and this will handle the situation, right? You have a kind of issue, right? It's a bit darker, but it blends nicely. If we will take blend from a longer distance, I mean this kind, for example, 2 meters. So when the uh, distance between two shapes is bigger than 2 meters, then we stop blending. We also get the same kind of problem that we start to propagate normals from terrain too far from the connection, and it simply start to look strange, right? So we set up this curve pretty good just as a starting option. Of course, you could adjust that, but now you could understand the whole idea that the uh, distance between these two shapes will change the normal propagation from terrain to the 3D model. Right? So I hope you understand that. And yeah, this really could make and give you the job and give you nice results. For sure, it's not perfect in every place. For sure, you could adjust that because uh, it will work differently at the big objects. It will work differently at the small objects like this. You would rather probably want to don't use 0.6 meter, right? Distance blend, but maybe 20 centimeters in such a case, right? In smaller objects, so you should adjust that to the scale of your to the scale of your fence object. But really, you could do a lot with it. I would say it could save many cases. Yeah, if you like our fence generator and you want and repair auto material, you could expand your our pack with cost and use environment because river auto materials have only trial from it, so few clip prep-ups. But the full clip uh, model range is on the cost environment path. At the end, I will show you one more trick. Let's go to run demo stream again, because I'm not sure if everyone noticed that fence generator object would have prefab, which have mesh coloring script. And if this object touch layer that you specify, at, for example, R.A.M layer water, if it can vertex bind the mesh. In this case, we have a situation where we draw vertex color air channel, and on material its effect as a wetness. If we will go to lava demo scene, let's go to the lava demo scene then, tutorial. If we go to the lava demo scene, you will see that in this fence, vertex color air for this material is emission. Of course, you could change it to wetness with material or to fitting. But the thing is that you have a lava river and fence generators on the right and left side, which basically use the lava river as a source of point, right? You offset these objects from the river line and you found nice rocks around the river, and these rocks are automatically heat or wet when they touch our surface. Lava or water surface, just our spline. It could be lake, it could, to be honest, it could be any other object that is using our spline. So yeah, you have many different options to use this fence generator, not only for fences, but also for automatic painting object that touch the spline. Okay, so I think that's all for this. Uh, if you have any questions, use our Discord or email. See ya.